Welcome, everyone, to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host and moderator. Our topic today is a fun one, human-centered AI and the future of trusted talent. It's going to be an interesting conversation. We're going to talk about talent. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about where the world is in terms of expertise and trust. Let me introduce our guests. First up, I've got Carl Kutzmode. He is the founder of B2B VIP Executive Alliance. They're an executive search firm. They focus on career development and networking. They connect transformational leaders with scaling mid-market companies and investment-backed companies. Carl is a serial entrepreneur and in the executive recruiting space. Actually, those that follow me have probably heard his podcast appearance that we had a while ago. He also focuses on leadership coaching, talent advisory, and has had 2 successful exits. He has extensive experience in helping growth stage, mid-market, and PE-backed companies align leadership talent with business growth. With all that, Carl, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me today, Bruce. Looking forward to it.
It's great to have you back. Next up, I've got Scott Zimmer. Scott is the co-founder and CEO of AnswersFrom.me. They're a human-centered AI platform built to help experts scale their knowledge, sharing in a trustworthy way. His background spans business innovation, design, and senior executive roles at companies including Truist, Capital One, Verizon, Ally, and Disney, with his current work focused on making expert knowledge more accessible without losing the human voice. With that, Scott, welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Looking forward to it.
Have you. So for our audience here, we are streaming here on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you've got comments or questions, go ahead and leave them on those pages. We'll see those. We'll try to weave them into the conversation as we go. If you are watching the replay, go ahead and leave comments and questions on either of those platforms. We'll watch those in the coming days and weeks, try to respond, get answers to things. So feel free to reach out and comment there. Obviously, we're all on LinkedIn as well, so you can always reach out to us if you have comments or questions directly. With all that, let's get into it. I think the one thing I wanted to start us with is just kind of understanding where AI and talent kind of are landing for folks right now in terms of application and use. I'd love to kind of get each of you from, what are you seeing the kind of the most interesting applications or use of AI in kind of the talent space? Carl, why don't we start with you on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak from the perspective of the executive search world. So it is a game changer for us in terms of just some of the just front end stuff that we have to do to set up a new search. Researching target companies, researching potential prospective candidates. We have in the past had humans doing that kind of online research. And now in minutes, I can get a fairly robust list of people to target when we set up a search in minutes. And then I have my researcher do higher value tasks doing the outreach. And even AI can take some of that off our plate as well. So that's the most immediate thing that has impacted our business tremendously.
Yeah. Scott, what's give us your kind of most interesting applications or how it's affecting talent and strategy.
Yeah, I think one of the more interesting things is just how often we're reading about, companies or thought leaders or even founders who say that they've got a staff that includes AI agents. And when you read into it a little bit more, I think you can actually push back on that. And that's, I think what's interesting is, the number of examples where there's actually an AI agent being treated like a staff member versus like an extension of a brilliant founder or a brilliant employee. I think maybe we'll get to a point sometime soon here where it'll always be considered it's a human plus AI is the right duo versus this imaginary thing of I'm a leader, 2 of my staff are agents, 3 of them are humans. I just call bunk on that whole world. It's a lot of good writing and maybe FOMO, but we're not seeing any real examples of it. But what we are seeing, and Carl just mentioned as well, is elevating of the tasks. And if we think of tasks being taken on, by AI, elevating the human to do some of the more nuanced, important things that involve judgment, et cetera, that's happening all over the place. And with it is this acknowledgement that maybe we're going to need most of the humans that we've had all along instead of pursuing all these layoffs. So that might be a fun thing to get into as well.
Yeah, well, let's do that because I do find that
Yeah.
companies currently, I think companies are doing a lot of kind of replacing, right? Like, okay, how can I
Yeah.
replace all these people with AI? And
Hmm.
I think to your point, Scott, like there's a little bit of this. What do we think about augmenting or kind of enhancing people's capabilities with AI? What are some of the applications that you've seen that are kind of more interesting that allow people to? I think of Sigourney Weaver and Aliens, and then she gets in that that skeleton, the exoskeleton that are lists thousands of pounds and stuff. What are some of the things you're seeing people leaders do or use AI for that will help them really kind of either get things done faster or better or really kind of extend their capabilities? Carl, when we start with you, what have you seen leaders do in this
Yeah.
space?
I see a lot of people leaders looking at ways to take the transactional nature of repetitive things off the plate.
Yeah,
So, analyzing talent data from different systems that maybe they don't have connected. So, they export spreadsheets and then they have to merge it and analyze it. And so, they're using, AI, different tools to be able to analyze it and come up with a report for leadership. They're also using it to handle questions that come up repetitively from their employees. They've embedded it into some of their workflows to handle those either employees or customers. And Scott could probably speak to
yeah,
that because I think it's the concept of an AI twin being available like 24 by 7 as opposed to just during the workday. So it's taken
yeah.
that heavy burden off of those repetitive questions. People get instantaneous responses.
Yeah, yeah. Scott, talk to us more about your AI twin and how that's helping leaders that you're working with.
Well, one of the things to know going into the AI twin discussion is AI is really great at some things and not good at all at other things. And the really great category includes synthesis, which is why it's so famous for research,
Yeah,
includes summarization, includes extracting, all those types of things. And the magic that we experience when we plug in and ask a question of a foundational model, it's pulling from everything it was trained on. Of course, large language models are trained on everything they can find on the internet, especially Reddit. But
yeah,
we can get back to that in a moment. But it pulls from absolutely everything, which ends up being a problem as much as it is an advantage. So if you ask a question and it's averaging everything ever said on that question, and it's giving you the answer and saying this is the way to go, you lose diversity of thought. You lose, the standout example. Like what happens to, someone who has a better recipe, for example, and you're asking a question about a recipe and you just get that generic down the middle.
Mhm.
We asked ourselves if we're able to capture the knowledge of a specific human by capturing what they say, what they said, what they wrote, what they did, could we, through technology that's called RAG, retrieval augmented generation, could we create a scenario where what it's synthesizing or extracting from is that human's point of view, that unique thing that you're chasing down when you're asking an expert for their insight? And it's been a super fun ride. It started very, very small with only a few companies out there doing it, or a few people doing it, and now we're seeing more and more of it. And it's starting to trend towards a scenario where we're going to see like massive data sets representing companies, and
yeah,
we think we're going to see very small data sets representing each of us individually, so that we can tap into Bruce
yeah.
24/7 and get his perspective if he's not available, for example.
Yeah, no. The one thing that I've been curious about, having been pretty deep in this and using it for a lot of tools and stuff, the key that I've found, particularly as a personal use case, is really kind of training the AI on who I am and what my strengths and weaknesses are, and using it as a counterweight on certain things. So I've trained a lot of my models to actually challenge me in certain ways that I know I typically don't challenge myself, or look out for
Yeah,
blind spots that I typically have, or
yeah,
or ask me things that I'm actually an expert in rather than going to kind of the generic sources, right? So when we're working through a problem, it's like it knows that, oh, okay, Bruce, well, what are your feelings on this? What are your models? How have you done? Do you have any case studies, right? So I've trained it to kind of pull that stuff out because it's to your point, Scott. I find that the standard answers, if you just go to a generic prompt and you kind of go in, you're going to get pretty vanilla stuff,
yeah.
and it takes a lot of work to actually create something that is unique and valuable and actually has a point of view that captures something that I have. What are the other kind of I guess, guidelines or strategies that you advise, kind of leaders to think about when they're using AI, and how to either leverage themselves, or, apply it to their connections, or apply it to the problems that they're dealing with? Carl, do you have any best practices there that you've been working with leaders on?
Yeah, I'd say I'll put it in quotes, it's evolutionary.
Yeah.
I think when I'm working with clients, obviously we're working around a job and or a person they want to hire or a person they have internally. And
Hmm.
so I think it's important that they think about the roles and the job descriptions that they have all need to be redone.
Yeah.
And so we challenge them to sit down and really take that job apart and understand, where does AI fit into it, and where do you need to have someone who has AI competency in using, in performing that job, so that when we're interviewing people, whether it's us or the hiring managers are interviewing, and they know to look for certain things and how they've solved problems using tools that are available in this business, or how they've done it in the past. So it's really thinking through the nature of work and how
Yeah.
work gets done, that we're putting emphasis on. It's time to redo everything. I know you did that 15 years ago when we were making a major shift in technology, and now it's here again. So let's reevaluate all these job descriptions that you have, and realign it to the future of work, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna chime in on that one, because I think one of the more interesting tools that I've developed is, I do a lot of work with these leadership teams, and we're figuring out strategy. Well, invariably, we have to come back to, well, okay, what are people's roles? Like, who's responsible for what? Is it clean? Like, do we have clear handoffs, et cetera? So I now what I do is, when I work with the leadership team, I'll take each one of the roles, and I'll have everyone on the team answer a whole bunch of questions, usually about 6 to 8 questions per role, on round what do they expect that role to do, how do they expect to interact with that role, what do they want to deliver to that role. Like, I do everyone analyzes all the roles, and then I pull that data together, and it starts to figure out what the role should be, right? Based on everyone's expectations, right? So now we can create a real map based on everyone's current understanding and expectations. And then I also can know, well, given where the role is going to land, who do I need to coach? Who do I need to manage, right? Because, well, this is where we land the role. Well, this is what you put into the form. There's a gap there that
Right.
we're going to have to close as part of the whole team development process. And then it's really cool how it can figure out where you got gaps and overlap. It's like, hey,
Hmm.
no one's taking care of this. We need to put this somewhere. And so now I can really make sure that I have a really clean leadership team role map on this. But I mean, I can never do that kind of analysis to that depth and
Right.
collect that kind of data without tools like this. So it's interesting when
Absolutely.
you really kind of figure this stuff out. Scott, what's in terms of best practices and things, like how do you help leaders figure out how to apply some of these things in effective ways?
Well, I love your example, because you put AI in a position to do something for you, but you still held yourself as the final decision maker. And that's one of the key things I'm always recommending. It's incredible how confident, and we've all been through this, on an individual basis, how confident AI can be. And then you have those oh shit moments where you realize it was super confident, but it was winging it, and it really had no idea. You avoid the risk of that if you keep yourself as the central filter,
Yeah.
and you get all the benefits of it coming up with all kinds of stuff. It's a pretty incredible device. I love to tell a story. In 2017, we had a conference that we sponsored in San Francisco that was called Humanity.ai. My team, I was leading the design team at Capital One at the time, and we had just designed some new interfaces like Alexa, and Slackbot had just been launched. So we had the who's who of the bot world talking about how AI is capable of human language. And the punchline in the story is, the theme of the conference was that everyone on stage said, if you want to have a successful future and kind of be AI proof, learn how to be creative, because no AI will ever be creative. That's innately human.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, generative AI, which is what's behind everything that we're all enjoying right now, is at its very nature creative. In a way, it's not creative with human judgment, but it is ultimately something. It's probabilistic, and it generates possibilities. That's an amazing thing to use generative AI for. Is, hey, generate 10 possibilities, or 10 other ways for me to say this, or 10 roles that are missing in this gap. And if you have it do that and you use your own judgment to pick the one or two that are the sweet spots, you've got more context that, of course, you couldn't fit into your prompt or your context window or all the data. You've got all that. Yeah. But yeah, certainly a best practice is, having it generate and then positioning yourself to make the final decision.
Yeah. Yeah, the phrase I'm using these days is not always right, but never in doubt. It's kind of responses from AI. Let's dig into that a little bit. And I think that the kind of the word I want to put on the table here is trust. Like how do you kind of, what's the discernment around how do you trust some of the AI stuff, or how do you build trust in AI systems? Because I think everyone's kind of, enough exposed to it now where they have hesitation or they have some reserve around, okay, is this right? Is this not right? Like what is contributing to or affecting kind of the trust of some of these tools or the trust of the application of some of these tools in these contexts? And what is the underlying kind of dynamic here? Carl, give us your take on what's really driving trust in this space.
Oh man, that's a big one in our world. So our world has gotten even more difficult with the advent of AI because you've got good actors and bad actors out there. So job candidates are getting hit up by AI bots, and they don't know if they're real and offer jobs. And scammers are scamming job candidates online. So where we used to be able to reach out to prospective candidates on LinkedIn or others, now they're just ignoring those outreaches. So we have to engage them through trusted communities and trusted networks of someone who knows the person we're ultimately trying to get to.
Yeah.
Hence, in our company, Executive Alliance, B2B VIP, we built our own executive network of transformational leaders so that when I have to go to search, I can tap in and I can ping my network, and we have regular networking calls, and I can tap their networks to get referred to the right people.
Yeah.
So that has been key. And on the flip side, you've got the employers who are, AI is now modifying the resume and tailoring them automatically and applying to jobs for candidates. And the employers now have twice as many resume volume, all looking.
Holy cow! Good. I just got the perfect resume for this job. Just came in.
And then the next one and the next one and the next one, they're all perfect. And so the employers are sitting there going, oh my God, it's 10 times more work now to try and sift through. I literally was at a conference and there was the head of HR from a major consulting firm on a panel. And somebody in the room said, I have everything on your job description listlet, the posting, and I've applied 4 times and I keep getting rejected immediately by AI and I'm not sure why. Yeah. What do you suggest I do? She goes, find a human in our company and connect with them, and they'll put you to the top of the pile because they'll see on your resume you've got what we're looking for. So, and she said my peers would hate me for that one, but it's the human to human connection.
Yeah, the reality situation.
People will put more trust in something that's referred than what's on face value.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how that landscape is shifting so quickly on this. Scott, what's yours? Like, how do you think about trust in this AI world?
Yeah, 2 things. I follow Carl's line of thinking in that in a world that is increasingly flooded with AI content, we will start to trust humans more than we've ever trusted humans.
Yeah.
And so seeking out those humans is something that I think there'll probably be lots of new tools, that are launched, for how you can seek out the human that you trust. But there's a layer above, the AI that is easy to point fingers at, and that's the application layer. We're starting to hear a lot more about the application layer in the past 2-3 months. It was called at one time a wrapper. I don't know if you all remember, but there were companies and the foundational model companies were saying that's just a wrapper. But wrappers such as Perplexity and Cursor have turned into mega unicorns, and now the whole wind is shifted, and everyone's saying, think of the foundational models as a foundation on top of which you can build something that generates trust, or that earns trust, or that deserves trust. By way of having better data, by way of living with different rules. Like if you don't know the answer to something, admit it. And so we're going to start seeing a lot more focus on that application layer and what's built on top of these foundational models as being something that we can actually rely on. There's one in the medical field that I was just really close to in the past week, as I was spending a week with some medical students on the design thinking frontier. I didn't know, Carl, I don't think I told you this. Its name is Open Evidence, and they are now raising a round that would value them at $20 billion. That's how much the trust layer is adding in the medical field.
Yeah.
So, and then you may or may not know the verticalization one that's been out for a while in legal, but it's one of the ones is Harvey, named after the famous character in Suits, of course. So you're going to start seeing, if you can earn trust, people will use your AI. And if you can't, people will seek out a human.
Well, and what are they doing? I mean, I get the you kind of training it, the response differently. And I have my responses. I have Claude particularly, give me a confidence score on its answers, so I can kind of see, like, are you like 90% confident, or are you like 60% confident? The other thing is I have it, because I reference a lot of documents in my projects. I have it tell me which documents it looked at to come up with this answer, so that I can check. It's like, oh, well, you actually need to look at this one too, right? So I can kind of see what it's used. So it's kind of show me your work kind of strategies can be really helpful, because then it gives me a higher degree of confidence of what the answer is.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that these wrappers are doing that are actually adding that confidence layer? Like what actually drives confidence for then users?
Well, better data and a declared source of data that maybe is more trustworthy. So just to use the example of Open Evidence for the medical field, they're only loading certain, studies and experiments that are already accepted as research in the medical world. Whereas if you ask, ChatGPT or any competitor, those might be part of the data set, but so is everything else out there. And maybe they're trying to narrow it at this point because they're going to attack all verticals, because that's where the money is. But then you have to ask yourself, do I trust that they're narrowing it appropriately, or do I want to do business with a company that specializes in serving nobody but, in this case, physicians, right?
Exactly.
So, and having that level of certainty that the human behind it as well. So in an example like either one of those, Harvey, for example, if you can research Harvey and see that there are human, legal experts that are training all aspects of Harvey, then you might feel a lot better about things than you currently feel about any of the foundational models, even when they had learning from human feedback, reinforcement learning from human feedback. There were stories that the humans were third world country or humans, and
they trained and
so like if or my favorite fact that I alluded to earlier, as of mid 2025, 40% of answers cited by ChatGPT and Claude were citing references from Reddit. And so they've evolved a little past that because they were embarrassed that was out there. But 20% of the US population is on Reddit, and you'd be hard pressed to find someone who said that the population on Reddit is representative. So anyways, trust by way of the human behind it is going to be a huge factor moving forward. Stronger data as well.
So I guess what can leaders, what can companies do in terms of strategies on better using AI to kind of actually develop kind of, not necessarily more proprietary, but more customized uses of these things, rather than just going out and using a generic foundational model to kind of answer all the questions? What are some of the strategies? Like how do you actually start amassing, content and insights and tools that are actually going to be differentiated or applicable to your business or your situation? Like, what are some of the underlying principles? Scott, why don't we start with you on this one?
Yeah, well, there are technologies and they're gaining ground. We're going to hear a lot more about RAG, for example, and really huge enterprise companies focusing on RAG, where they help you, trap your data set of valuable data. They help you keep it pure. They put guardrails on the usage so that it's trustworthy. And even for all of us humans, and a little bit of what you were describing you've done for yourself, Bruce, Notebook LM, that's been around for a while. I guess breaking news today, I just saw they've renamed it Gemini Notebook. So so now it's Gemini Notebook as of this morning. That is RAG. So that is you load all your own content and you can trust it. And so I think that's going to start, instead of it being an edge case, it's going to start being an obvious case.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we'll enjoy the mass appeal of the LLMs will be that foundation. And then when we really want to do something and feel confident, we'll use an application layer.
Yeah. Carl, I'm curious
Yeah.
where you're seeing kind of AI, being used in kind of talent strategy for some of these companies in terms of, putting together some of these more customized approaches or applying AI in more kind of unique competitive ways. What's out there for you?
Yeah, I've seen, what I'm hearing a lot of talk about is how I think you mentioned it earlier, people are talking about having a team and AI is part of the team.
Yeah.
It's going to play a role as kind of AI agents become more prominent and more sophisticated. I think, the teams of tomorrow are going to be human plus AI in some sort of rag tech environment, to
Yeah.
Scott's point, where it's a safe zone and it just helps everybody be on that team be more efficient in how they get the work done. But it'll have a role. And people will know when to use it and how to use it on that team. And
Yeah.
that's the conversation that we're seeing and hearing, is how do we integrate this to be as effective as possible from a team perspective.
Yeah. I'd love to hear what you kind of each of you are up to a little bit, and get contact information and stuff for folks if they want to reach out and learn more. Scott, what are some of the things you're working on these days? Give us a sense of your kind of view of AI, or what you're working on in AI, and then how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, we're just really excited about knowledge transfer. So wherever there's a human expert, there tends to be the same problem, which is that human expert doesn't have enough capacity to be there for everyone who wants to learn from them. So we're in that RAG realm. We're helping a human expert assemble their knowledge, and then we're especially obsessed on making it easy for everyone that wants to learn from them, making it easy for them to access that knowledge 24/7.
Yeah.
And then as that happens, that human wants to feel in control, the expert. So they want transparency, they want control, so that the answers are accurate and evolving as things evolve. The piece here that we haven't mentioned one thing, which is learned experience. I think that's going to be one of the big differentiators moving forward. We see potentially AI stars, coming in movies because of how realistic it's become. I'm very curious if we're going to see AI stars in the knowledge realm, because if they don't have learned experience, if they haven't walked across the street, I don't see us continually turning to the same source, if it's an artificial source, the way we do continue to turn to a real human. So we think it's an exciting future where maybe I've got the ability to book time with the expert that I want to learn from, and maybe in between times that I'm meeting with them live, I'm able to learn via their AI twin. So that's our space. We're having a lot of fun. You can try my AI twin out if anyone's out there and curious. Our URL is answersfrom.me, and then if you do a /Scott, that's my twin. So ask anything about something we've covered in this episode, or something else about AI, and it's there for you.
Awesome. I'm excited. It's a just fascinating space, and personally, I'm interested in it too. So
yeah,
excellent. And Carl, I know you're at a conference right now, but give us what you're up to, what you're working on, and then how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about this whole space, and I've always been kind of on the forefront of what's next in the recruiting world and helping companies get online with recruiting in the mid-90s to using social media and recruiting. And I'm really fascinated how this is going to impact businesses going forward. So I'm actually speaking and facilitating a panel discussion this afternoon at an organization called promptchicago.com. They have regular events, and check them out. The one today is pretty cool. It's on AI innovation. Where are we today? Where are we going? So those are some of the things we're doing there. But my personal perspective on this whole topic from the talent perspective is it's going to be even more important than ever to be part of a trusted community if you're a job candidate looking for a job. To participate in those LinkedIn groups that have affinity, because that's where the recruiters are hanging out. That's where we are going to have to go and build relationships with people in advance of future opportunities. So get close to the recruiting buddies in your world, but also know that sometimes your job is going to come from someone outside your industry. It just happens to be an executive whose brother-in-law referred him a job and said, hey, do you know anybody? And so those trusted referral relationships is where you're going to see more activity in the future.
Yeah, 100% agree. Excellent. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, just bruce@icefelt.com, and icefelt.com is my URL. And Scott, I'm promising I will get my AI twin going as soon as, I get through some project
we'll announce it.
And I'll post it. I'll post it here on this thread once it's live and people can check it out. But Carl, Scott, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Thanks, Bruce. Great to see you again, Scott. Take care.
You as well, Carl. Thanks, Bruce. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, this is great. And anyone watching, again, if you're on the replay here, leave comments and questions on the pages. We'll watch those in the coming days and week. And so we'll get back to you on that. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And we'll see you on the next LinkedIn Live. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Bye.